It's the Auburn Observer Podcast, game recap edition. This will probably be shorter than usual just because we only have one thing to talk about at this point, but it's a lot to talk about. Justin Ferguson here, joined by my co-pilot per usual, Dan Peck. Hello, Dan.
Ahoy, Justin. Good to see you as always, although we have spent an inordinate amount of time together today, heading up to Birmingham for the basketball game and coming back. Big shout out to Wings 94.3, not only because they're letting us use the studio, although we really appreciate that as always. Wings 94.3, your home for Auburn University football, men's basketball, baseball, Tiger Talk, Auburn high school football, and it's you gotta, man, it's a hot one coming up this Friday night at the Duck with Auburn and Opelika squaring off with a chance to play for the state title on the line. That's on Wings 94.3 this Friday night. You can also catch classic hits, some Bob Seger, some Bad Company, some Def Leppard. Wings 94.3 also generous enough to let us borrow the company car, and drive up to Birmingham today. So a big shout out to our friends at Wings 94.3 for letting us use the studio.
If you happen to have been in Birmingham on Sunday or on 280 on Sunday and saw the Wings 94.3 Auburn Network vehicle,
the Wings wagon,
that was us. We really, really appreciate it. That was really super kind of them to let us use that as well as this wonderful studio where we will talk about Dan.
And the scratches were there before we left.
The good thing about a wrapped car like that, it's harder to see the scratches. How about another heavyweight fight? Just an absolute barn burner of a basketball game for the second year in a row. Houston and Auburn. Even though we thought this was going to be a different scenario, different situations because of how different Auburn was, and honestly, the difference in the Houston team as well. 73-72, Houston pulls it out. Auburn had a chance to win and beat the number one team in the country at the final possession, had a couple looks at it at the end. They come up short, but this Auburn team, I think, impressed everybody except for themselves, I think, on Sunday. And we will talk about that. We will break it down. We have the observe for us from both sides of this game, from both of us, I should say. And that will be the podcast today. Later this week, we will talk Auburn-Jackson State and preview Auburn-Mercer in football. But this will just be Auburn-Houston now because this is an interesting time. For those of you who don't know, every podcast is somebody's first. For those of you who don't know, Dan is the voice of the Troy women's basketball team. They're about to be on the road for these next few days. So we will have some remote podcast. And then next week, the goal is to at least record a podcast at one point because both of us will be in Las Vegas for basketball next week. But Dan's got, we're recording this. This is Sunday night when we're recording this. We're burning some midnight oil between working. I tried to write on the way back home, and I just can't do it. I don't have the makeup physically to make that work. I just get car sick too much.
The fortitude.
Yeah, don't have the fortitude. Dan, we're recording this on Sunday night, and Dan has to be at Troy in 6 hours.
Yeah, we're on the earliest flight out of Montgomery tomorrow morning with the eventual destination of Manhattan, Kansas. We play Kansas State. The Troy Trojans play Kansas State in Manhattan on Tuesday. We've got Missouri at Missouri on Thursday morning. So busy week.
And you're planning on being back for the Mercer game.
And I will be back at some point Friday. And should be able to attend Mercer the next day. But yeah, it's a big week for the Troy Trojans, 2 big non-conference games. Happy that I can make that trip. But it's I was doing the math in my head before Auburn-Houston of how many of the next 14 days, how many of those days will I spend watching a basketball game in person? And I think it's 8.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. So it's should be a lot of fun. That includes Auburn action in Las Vegas too. But Justin, real quick on this, how many times in the last 2 years or so have you been watching an Auburn basketball game and the thought crosses your head this is one of the best basketball games I've ever seen?
Yeah,
and it happened. I mean, you've said last year's Auburn-Houston
best game I've ever covered
is one of the best games you've ever been to.
And I think this one was not quite that level. but it was dang close.
It was phenomenal. Phenomenal basketball game.
I mean, Auburn Duke last year was incredible. Auburn Iowa State is a great one. Yeah, I mean, then you go back to the 24 season. That Tennessee game on the roads is just all time good. The Auburn Alabama games in this stretch. So another heater from Auburn, losing 73-72 to Houston. And before we get into like breaking down the game itself and the observe fours as we do, I got to say, though, the big takeaway for me, the biggest takeaway, just generally speaking, is that this Auburn team went out and proved it can hang with the best of the best in college basketball. Houston is the number one team in the country. Houston is like the analytics favorite right now. Houston has finished number 2 in KenPom each of the last 4 years. The surest thing for the better part of the last decade in college basketball, men's college basketball, has been Houston, right? And so it was a
second weekend. Every NCAA tournament for the last
5 years. Yeah, I think it's 5 years they've been in the second weekend. They've went to the Final Four twice. Obviously, we're there with Auburn last season. It was such a huge deal and a huge accomplishment last season for Auburn to beat that Houston team on the road. And I remember Henry Patton and I were covering that game, and we were sitting in our Raising Cane's drive-thru at like 3 in the morning after that game. And I remember we were looked at each other and we thought, and we'd said, if that Auburn team can beat that Houston team the way they did on the road, they are fully capable of making a deep run. This could be one of the best teams in the country. On Sunday.
Last year's Auburn team was far more of a known quantity.
Yes,
right.
That was the battle for who was number one, basically in the early nerd rankings and all that. This Auburn team, outside of the top 30 in KenPom, back into the top 25 in the human polls. You
didn't know exactly what to do with what you had so far.
Yeah.
Like the sample size you had so far.
Especially with how Bethune-Cookman went on opening night. And this Auburn team was a shot away from just one possession away from winning this game. And so what does that mean? It means the ceiling of this team is super high, right? You can't say, like, I think Houston had some things go wrong for them in that game. Sinak and Tugler fouling out were big pieces in that one for sure. But like, I thought Auburn did not play a clean game overall. There were several things that Auburn felt like they could control that went against them in this one, and they lost by 1. So what we're saying is like consistency. We'll see if Houston's that good, right? The way Auburn just played, they have this brutal schedule coming up. I'm not saying they're going to win them all by any means. If they just win a few of these games they have coming up, these big non-conference tests, they're going to be in a great spot. But to be one possession away, 1 point away from beating Houston in this circumstance says a lot about this team. And like I said, the main thing is that they took a lot of people by surprise. They proved a lot to a lot of folks today, but not to themselves. Dan, because you were in there as well, the tone, the message from Stephen Pearl post-game in the press conference was, we're not surprised. We thought we could do this. And I think externally there was not a lot of belief in this Auburn team that they could be that good. And yes, they lost. They don't want to talk about moral victories. But this team came in here thinking that they were going to win. I'm going to tell you, we've been at practice the last several days. This team had all the confidence in the world coming in, and they backed it up. They were just a couple of possessions, a couple of opportunities away from walking out of there with a win.
You could tell, listening to Steven in the postgame, like how much this game probably would have meant to this brand new team.
First big game. And this is his first big game as the head coach.
His first big game as a head coach. And I asked the players, right? I mean, you had some guys with experience in situations like this, but you have a whole bunch of guys on this team that have no experience in situations like this. And if Auburn had, if they'd been able to get over the top and actually beat Houston, it would have, I mean, it's hard to imagine what kind of impact it could have had on the psyche of this team. And that's why Stephen Pearl didn't want to talk about moral victories and didn't want to talk about the fact that merely competing with number one Houston is a very real accomplishment for this team, especially competing in the, like, you have the ball down one in the final minute. Like, you're playing.
You had your chances to win. You had 3 looks at the end at a potential go-ahead bucket, including the very last play of the game.
And when you talk about perspectives, they're like, I was able to sit in on Kelvin Sampson and listen to him talk about the game and do some. And he made the point that his Houston team lost to Auburn the year before, and it was more about the experience they gained than the result. And they were able, they
it's a November game.
Yeah, and they were fine. And I think Kelvin Sampson even said, like, 6 weeks from now, the outcome of this game, the team that actually won, that's not going to be the most important thing. It's going to be, how much better have these teams gotten since this game to where they are, when conference play gets going. And I don't know what you like. It's hard to say that it's hard to come away from this game not believing in Auburn's potential, not just as a team right now, but
long term.
Yeah, considering that these pieces are still.
If they can do this, they can compete with anybody in the country. Just like point blank. Because this Houston team, on paper, is the best one in college basketball right now. They'll have an opportunity to play the other one that's really the top contender for it right now in Purdue.
So all losses aren't created equal in that sense, right? Like if Auburn had come away from this game,
this is the best loss you could possibly have. Yeah. The only way it could have been better is if it was a true road game, right? But 1 point to the best team in the country is like literally as close as you can get.
Yes, if Auburn had come away from this game thinking, oh, we've got a lot of work to do before we can compete with these kind of teams.
Yeah.
You'd start to think about, there's a lot of tough games between now and the start of conference play, and conference play is going to be loaded with tough games too.
And look, they're going to lose some of these games coming up. Like they just are. That's just the nature of basketball. But like, you showed a ceiling in this game, and the thing is like you showed a ceiling with room to grow, with room for improvement. And I think that's the thing that it's the double whammy here, or I guess it's bittersweet. I think. For Auburn, where it's like, you have what it takes. But you also can look back at this game and be like, man, how close were we to getting the win? Because if it's a win, it's like, it's only the second time they would have ever beaten a number one team. The only other time came in 1980.
Nearly 40 years ago.
Right. And it's such a huge win. I talked to Auburn offensive coordinator Mike Burgomaster, in the preseason or right as the season was starting. And his point was you schedule these games like this because they don't hurt you at all. If they lose, like, this is like, honestly, like if a loss could help a resume, this would be it. But you do those games because what you can gain out of it for a resume means so much more. So like for Auburn, like we'll see. They improved their analytics after this game. I'll be interested to see if the AP voters, which I was a former AP voter, I don't have a ton of faith in that system, just having been in it. I'll be interested to see if like Auburn maybe move up with a loss, just because look at what that is. Look at what they were able to do. And anyway, like Stephen Pearl coming in post game and being like, we're not waiting around, I think there was talk, and I mean, I was chief among these people to do it, where it's like preaching patience with this team because it's new. There's so many pieces that hadn't even played in these types of games before. It's a tough non-conference schedule. It's a new head coach. It's like, okay, it's going to take some time. They go out and prove in the 4th game of the year against the best team in the country right now that there's no time to wait around. They don't have to wait around. This is a team that can play right away. And it's like, it's funny that, Auburn went to overtime with Bethune-Cookman, and then less than 2 full weeks later, they take Houston all the way down to the wire. But I think that it shows you, it's just like, A, they've gotten better from that opening night, and B, like what this team is capable of is really, really good. And they're going to be frustrated and they're going to be disappointed that they lost that game. And there's no reason for them not to feel that way. But I think you're going to come out of this game, and I think the conversation about Auburn externally is going to be, whoa, this Auburn basketball team still has juice. And if they had beaten Houston, it wouldn't have meant like, okay, everything's great now. They're going to win the national championship. Like, Houston lost to San Diego State last season, and that San Diego State team got knocked out. It was an 11 seed and got blown out in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Or they were in the first four with Carolina. So it's like one game doesn't mean the world for you in terms of your results moving forward. But what it does say is that this team's going to be able to stare down anybody in the country and say, well, we think we can beat you. And what we saw on Sunday afternoon, Dan, in Birmingham was, yeah, they could. They really could. And it wasn't like, oh, Auburn got abnormally hot from deep, or Auburn got, Houston turned the ball over a ton, or like Houston couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Like, it wasn't that. It was they just straight up played an even basketball game with them pretty much the whole way.
And again, it's this team with so many new pieces, and it's a game going down to the wire against Houston, right? It's against number one Houston. If you had to guess, like, between the Bethune game and the Houston game, like, which one feels like an outlier right now? Like, I would think it's the Bethune game. And we'll see when we have more data and the sample size gets larger. But yeah, seeing this team face down a situation like this, and something Steven said, this will be one of my 4 points, Justin, but multiple moments in that game where it felt like you were on the verge of Houston taking that commanding lead. Like, multiple times in that game where it's like, oh boy, like Houston's about to start rolling downhill. And every single time it felt like Auburn had an answer. Mm-hmm. Every single time it felt like Auburn had, the ability to fire back with a flurry of their own.
So let's start there with the observe fours. We'll start with Auburn's ability to resilience.
Answer. Yeah. Having an answer every single time.
All right. Here's some examples. You ready? Auburn down 7 with 4:41 left in the first half. They take the lead exactly 3 minutes later in this game. They are down 8, 2 minutes and 10 seconds into the second half. That is a 2-point game in less than a minute. Houston goes back up by 8 with 11:54 left to play. Auburn cuts it back to 2 possessions right after that. They cut it down to 2 a few minutes later. Houston's up by 6 with 5:02 left. Keyshawn Hall hits a layup, hits 2 free throws after getting hurt, and he's out for the rest of the game. Houston comes back up by 7.
We were debating during the second free throw. It's like, is he going to try to stay in?
Yeah.
And you like, I think he takes one step after hitting the free throw. It's like, no, he's not. He's not staying in.
Uzan hits a 3, a really good tough 3 to go up by 7 with 2:57 left, and then Auburn. It's a 1-point game with 52 seconds to play, and obviously they have a chance to win it at the end. The resilience of this team. This team. This is a heavyweight fight, just like it was last season. But like last season, you knew what kind of chin Auburn had, right? Yeah, you had a team.
And you knew what kind of punch Auburn could throw last year. Like there's multiple things that
they were expected to be one of the best teams in the country. You had Janai Broom, you had all these veterans, you had this really, really good team, and like, yes, you learned something in that Houston game where it's like, oh, this team could really, really have a super high ceiling, and Tahaad Pettiford's a huge reason why. But they punched back, and they're down 9 in that game. How about that?
You punch back, and you're against Sonny Liston, right? Yeah. Like, you're against Sonny Liston at his
how about the
14-inch fists.
Just real quick, I mean, Houston's a different team this year, and I think it's they're gonna need some more time to kind of come together and be the machine that they want to be. But think about it this way: Auburn's down 9, in the fourth quarter, so to speak, of that game last season. Auburn never gets down by 9 in this game. 8's the biggest lead that Houston has all the way. And so we knew what kind of chin Auburn had last year. We didn't know what kind of chin Auburn had this year. You had a feeling this was a mentally tough team with the way they finished that Bethune-Cookman game, with the way they bounced back from that Oklahoma State loss in the exhibition. you had a feeling that this team could be resilient. But that's, like you said, it's Sonny Liston. Like this is the biggest punch you're going to get early in the season, and you take it and you keep firing back for more. And that's huge. I think Auburn's crowd, in Birmingham should get credit, and Stephen Pearl was quick. He wanted to say, hey, we wanted to win it for these guys.
Kelvin Sampson had a lot of really nice things to say about crediting Auburn with filling an arena like that.
It's a huge arena. And
2 o'clock on a Sunday. He said a lot of places in college basketball, like a lot of good programs, probably can't fill an arena that size 2 hours from campus to play Houston, and Auburn did.
And here's the thing. I'll say this real quick. The atmosphere in the first 3 home games of the season for Auburn has not been like what you would imagine it to be. And yes, these are bye games. This Jackson State game they got coming up, like that game should have some more juice. That game should have more juice. More people should be showing up. More people should be because you see what that team fed off of that in this game. And that was big. It was big. But like also just this team talked about it all. Like you're going to get hit in the mouth. They're going to go on runs. There are going to be stretches of this game where it feels like Houston has 7 players on the floor, and you're not going to be able to get any good looks. Auburn has a stretch. Auburn has a stretch in the first quarter of this game where they miss 11 out of 12 shots. From the 18-26 mark to the 10-21 mark of the first half, they only hit 1 shot from the field. They are going to make you feel like you're drowning. How about this? The rest of the way, though, a couple of stretches of 3 missed shots, but that's it. Like so, the ability to counter and fight back was really, really huge in this game, and you do it on both ends of the floor, right? Trying to draw up effective half-court offense against Houston is so tough because their ball pressure and their length and they're better at it than anybody. And they have been for several years running. I was looking back, and it was like, I went back like a decade, and it's like their points per possession on defense has been like 0.85 or lower every year. Like they're insane. They've led college basketball the last 2 seasons, and that they're going to lead them probably again this year for a 3rd straight year. This is the surest thing in the country, and Auburn had answers and had responses, and they had to hit tough shots. They had to make some good plays. And they did. And then on the defensive end,
it's like the Georgia defense of college basketball.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what Kelvin Sampson
and even then, like Georgia, like I know they went nuts against Texas on Saturday night, but like Georgia's people have been kind of looking around like, hey, is this Georgia defense like what it has been in the past? And this Houston defense, you can set your watch to, man. And then on Auburn's defensive end,
they were making it so hard for Auburn in some of those half court sequences.
Houston's at 73 for the final 2 minutes and 57 seconds of this game. They've turned the ball over 3 times late. Auburn gets 4 stops, and that's how they have a chance to win at the end because they string together stops. That's not a guarantee, especially for a team whose defense is like that's going to be their question mark. And
I believe the live odds swapped to Auburn being favored after the Tahaad block. Like if you were betting the game live, like once Auburn's got the ball with 20 seconds left, down 1,
down
it's
1.
like suddenly Auburn
down
is
1 in a virtual home game,
and it's like that's. And the thought that Auburn in the final minute would be like a team in that kind of position, and to get there, you had to survive multiple times where it's like, all right, Houston's putting the pressure on you, and you either break. Or you make something happen. Yeah. And Auburn every single time found a way to make something happen.
And they punched back in a lot of different ways. There's a stretch where they have some turnover. The first half, they have several turnovers, like 6, and Houston scores 11 points off of 6 turnovers at one point. The rest of the way, 2 points off of two more turnovers for Auburn. Auburn only gets out rebounded by 3. At one point, it was like 8 or 9 in the second half. The difference was it only finishes up being 5 in the second half. Auburn out rebounded Houston in the first half of this game. Points of the paint, Auburn's only off by 4 in this one. I mean, second chance points. Auburn finishes with more second chance points against a team that is as good at getting offensive rebounds as anybody in major college basketball.
Auburn finishes with fewer turnovers, which I would have said. If you'd asked me to predict going in, I'd be like, no way. This Auburn against this Houston defense.
No.
no way is
Houston takes care of the ball too.
Yeah, no way is this Auburn with senior guards.
Yeah,
like no way is this Auburn team going to have fewer turnovers. They finished with 8 for the game.
And so for that point, Dan, like they punched back in this game, and they did a really, really good job of just responding to whatever Houston threw at them, and that's very, very commendable. All right, my number one here. I'm going to say this because I thought Auburn had the ability to do this. They had the potential to do this. I just mentioned it just a second ago, but I think we need to dive into it a little bit more. Again, rebounding. Auburn loses the rebounding battle by 3 in this one. That is the sign of a team that when they dominated rebounding these last couple games in particular, it meant something, though, because they were doing it by those margins. If they let Houston get the ball off the backboard, and as Stephen Pearl called it throughout the week, if they got to play volleyball with it, it's over. It's over.
Oh, if Auburn couldn't stop possessions, right? If Houston could keep getting second chances, or if Houston could keep making it to where Auburn was one and done.
Yep.
Like if that's
Auburn was the better team on the offensive glass in this game. Houston had 14 offensive rebounds off of 37 misses. Auburn had 14 offensive rebounds and more second chance points overall off of 35 misses. Right? So, yeah, so a little bit better. And that's huge in this game. That is absolutely huge in this game, that you're able to limit some of those possessions. Like that stretch where they go 4 stops to end it, it starts with getting a tough rebound, down low. And getting and like winning 50-50 balls. Like, Keyshawn Hall said it before the game when they were previewing it, and he was like, look, they win every 50-50 ball. They did not in this game. And I thought Auburn just brought the fight out there. Let's get some look, Keyshawn Hall, and we'll dive into him more. And
he can be my number 2. You want to? Yeah, let's do it that way because I was thinking about naming some.
Here's a good segue here with that, with just how big Auburn's rebounding was. Let's get some props to Keyshawn Hall. I think defensively, there's still plenty of room to grow and a lot to work on. That's a huge reason why he's here. But it's another double-double for him, and it's 11 rebounds. And, he doesn't play the final, 4 minutes and change in this one. He is making an effort to go clean that up. And he was a good rebounder, especially at George Mason. And at UCF, it wasn't quite as big of a part of his game. It was still big, but not as quite as big because he had so much of a scoring load. He has done a really good job of, okay, he might not be the best on-ball defender. He might not be the best post defender. He might have work to do in those areas. That dude's going to go clean up the glass. And it's he has 11.
Gets the start at the 4 too, right?
Yes.
I mean, it was important for him to be physical in the front court tonight.
Auburn emphasized experience and length, and just they didn't start Sway, although Sway plays a good bit. He plays 26 minutes in this game.
What was the thing you noticed in the second? Does he play the final, or he was out there for practically the entire?
Sebastian Williams-Adams plays for the final 15 minutes and 41 seconds of this game.
True freshman.
So again, for Sway, 4 boards, 5 from Murph, and we'll get to him. Kevin Overton has 5. Elyjah Freeman has 3. Philip Jovich has 2. Like you got rebounding in this game from a number of guys, and to the point with Keyshawn Hall, you have a situation here where he's not just a scorer. He's not just a scorer. He made some plays on defense. He can be a facilitator. He's got a high usage rate, and he's doing a better job of taking care of the ball. It's big for him. It's big for him. Now, I will say the thing with Keyshawn Hall in this one that really hurt is that at the end of the game you couldn't go to him.
Yep.
And he was automatic at the free throw line. He was 8-8. And Auburn finishing the game 21-33 from the line. You miss 12 free throws in a game, you lose by 1. That's always going to sting. If they have him for the final few minutes, obviously defensively they were fine. Obviously they came back. As Stephen Pearl said, they did a good job of picking him up when he was out.
Yet you had Houston's forwards in foul trouble too, which would have made things.
Senac fouls out, JoJo Tugler fouls out, and that's huge. That's 2 of their 3 best defenders out there.
If you had a healthy Key in the final few minutes, you might have been in better.
That last possession, and look, you're fine with what Tahaad did. And you're not getting those foul calls. You're just not. Those guys are going to swallow those whistles there. It's got to be blatant for you to get the foul call.
They got to hit you with a chair at that point. Yeah.
I mean, and you might have to do that anyway. But also, like, you got 21 more free throws than they did. You got to the free throw line, which is what you do. Houston fouls, which is what they do. And Houston didn't get to the free throw line, which is common for them. Like people played to type in this game. People will sit back and say, "Oh, Auburn scored, had 33 free throws, and Houston had 12. They were lucky to be in there." No, those were earned. Yep. Those Auburn's free throws were earned, and likewise, that's just not what Houston does.
And that's not to say that there should have been a whistle necessarily on that final possession, but like I do think that with Auburn, like no, the point about Keyshawn Hall is a good one because if like.
You feel like you may some of those possessions that come up empty, including the last one, like maybe it's a little bit different if you have Key out there because he is your best scorer, because he is automatic at the free throw line, and because he gets to the line, he gets to the stripe pretty well, and that had an impact. But I mean, 20 and 11 for him.
You're +5 with Key in this game, by the way.
How about this 6 for 13 from 2 against a tough defense? Like he didn't hit a 3, but like he did other things really, really well. So. Yeah, you're right. Like, he's +5. He's one of just 3 Auburn players that are positives and plus-minus in this game, but he's the only one that played a significant amount of minutes. Yeah, I mean, it's just
no word from Steven on no update at the press conference. You're not going to have one like
correct.
Right after,
unless somebody breaks a bone. You're probably not going to have an update immediately after the game, especially in basketball. He tried, man. He's on the bench, and he is working out. Now, he's limping, but he is working that foot out, and he's trying to get his way back onto the floor.
Desperately wanted to go back in that game.
It's a gamer.
Yeah.
That's a gamer.
Game rooster.
And maybe that's the thing about this team. Going back to your first point about the resilience, this team's got some dogs, man. Mm-hmm. Like, this team has fight in it. And that's going to carry it a long way because this is their 4th game together. And a loss is a loss. We can talk the no moral victories thing and all that. You can talk a lot of the negatives out of it, which I'm sure they will focus on internally. But, like, looking at like that, this team's got a lot of fight to it. And Keyshawn Hall is a scorer and is a volume guy and is a guy that, like, yeah, I mean, like, there might have been some questions about, like, what his buy-in's going to be ultimately, how this is going to fit, if he's going to be a guy who – morphs into the culture of what Auburn basketball is.
The concern with someone like Keyshawn Hall, I think, going in would have been, is this someone who's about getting his own stats, or is he going to do what it takes for the team to win, no matter what? And I think you've seen winning basketball from him. It's not just been about trying to put up a 20 and 10, an empty calorie 20 and 10. And sort of shirk responsibility doing everything else. He's doing the little things. He's creating for his teammates, right? Like there are signs that it's not. I mean, yes, he's also getting his 20 and 10, but he's not doing it in a way that comes off as selfish.
Yeah.
At no point have I thought that in 4 games this season.
Yeah, I don't think he really forced anything. And it's like talking about being into the culture and fitting in. I think the rebounding shows it. And the hustle and just the hard work, in addition to the scoring. And like, look, man, he's getting absolutely blasted on every possession going to the basket against that Houston team. That is a fight. This is a brawl, like of a basketball game. But it goes to, after the game, and I thought Stephen Pearl did a good job of using this as like kind of a launching point for a point he wanted to make. But there was a question in the press conference about being impressed with Auburn matching the physicality of Houston. And Pearl says, I have a ton of respect for what they do. I have a ton of respect for their toughness, for their culture, for their physicality. But that's what we've been. That's what we've been doing for the last 8 years. That's what our identity has been too. So I appreciate you guys talking about that and really focusing on it. But that's what Auburn basketball has been for 8 years. And that was our emphasis going into this game. Like, we rebound too, right? We guard physically too. We fly around too. And I told our guys the expectation is to win the game, not to play the game close. And obviously really disappointed that we came up short. I make that point to say this. Like, that is the culture of Auburn basketball. And a new-look team has kept that going. Like, let's go back. When Bruce Pearl steps down and Stephen Pearl is promoted, the big reason why that was, no matter when it was going to happen, but the big reason why that was going to be the case where Auburn was going to turn it over to Stephen Pearl is because they believed that the culture of this team was going to continue because the pieces that you had in the coaching staff, the continuity was going to last. And I think Keyshawn Hall is a great example of this where toughness, physicality, culture, Keyshawn Hall showed that in this game. And for Auburn, you hope he can get back healthy sooner rather than later. Wouldn't be shocked. Again, this is just speculation. Wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't play that Jackson State game just because of what's ahead. Like,
well, and you saw the way they handled
3 games in 3 days coming up.
You saw the way they handled Murph too,
Correct.
right? Like I think that it's being careful.
Yeah.
With injuries like this is probably
to that point,
is probably the smart move right now.
In this game, you could have really used Keyshawn Hall down the stretch. You didn't have to have him, which is a good sign. But also, it's just like I thought this game really showed this isn't a dude who's just stat hunting, right? Yep. There's stuff about his game, especially on defense, I think, where he's going to want to continue to improve. But like that, I mean, he scores 20. He leads you in points and he leads you in rebounds. He doesn't play the last few minutes of the game, and he's a positive and plus minus. He fits what Auburn does, and it's only going to get better from here, I think, for him. My number 2, let's talk the other key, KeShawn Murphy. Dude, this guy is the real deal. He is the real deal. And I've been high on
he wanted to play today.
Oh,
like
man.
this.
And I've been high on him since he got here. I thought he was a phenomenal pickup for a center because his numbers off the bench at Mississippi State were like, whoa, if you give this guy even more minutes and he's got that experience, he's got that battle-tested background from him in the SEC, you could be really, really excited about the potential. And look, he wasn't 100%. I think that affected him on the defensive end at times. I think there were some times where Auburn's defense breaks down, the rim protection's not there, and he's not moving at full speed.
This game's not close if you don't get 31 minutes out of KeShawn Murphy.
Right.
Like
and
this game,
people will look at his stat line and go, all right, 7 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and in 31 minutes, -4 and plus minus, and you'll be like, huge game from him. Huge game. He makes such a difference out there, and you needed him to play all those minutes.
Houston finishes with a lot more than 34 points in the paint without KeShawn Murphy today. Yeah. That's one spot where I'd say he's.
And look, he doesn't get in foul trouble, but Kristen Ack, who was awesome in this game, those Houston freshmen won him that game. I mean, they combined for 40, but they were hitting shots. They were hitting jumpers.
One of the comparisons you can make between this year's Houston team and last year's Auburn team is that you've got a combination of a handful of the best players returning to Houston's top 40 in returning production from last year, and their top 2 scorers in this game were true freshmen.
Yeah,
and like they've found a mix of just like Auburn with Tahaad last year, where it's like freshmen who can help right now, and really, really talented veterans, and that's a tough combination to beat.
Murph has 3 assists and 0 turnovers. Some of his assists were as good of passing. He had a couple hockey assists as well in this game, where it's just the ball movement. You have to hit Houston inside out because they're so aggressive on defense, right? They're going to blitz ball screens. They are going to double. They were doubling Hall a lot early in the game. You got to get the ball and get it back out. You got to play off of 2 feet. You got to be smart with it. And he was. He's such a good facilitator. I mean, just straight up in this game, he leads the team in assists. Now everybody gets involved in the assists, department here for Auburn, but he's had the 2 games he's played have been really impressive. Where it's like, oh, he's facilitating as well for a 5-man, and that was Janai Broom's like X factor about him. And you're seeing more and more of that from KeShawn Murphy, and you think just it could get better because he's going to get healthier. Stephen Pearl had great lines left and right after this game. Murph has the number 1 line, and I asked him about, getting back, how he felt about his performance, and he said, I'm glad I was able to battle with these guys. I'm not worried about me. I'm going to be all right. My body's going to be ready for the season. I'm going to take care of myself. being able to fight for these guys is what heals me, honestly. Culture, man. Like it's another guy who's just completely bought in a short amount of time. He's a leader, and he's your best big man. And like it was you had to have him out there. Philip Jovich, it's his fourth college game, his first big one against like top competition. Didn't do so hot in this game, right? Noah Mecco-Porum, kind of like an opening, like when Auburn was tight in this game, they were in a battle. They didn't go to a Porum. Stephen Pearl has said in the past that, he's got to get better on offense. He's got to get ready. He was able to get in the rotation without Murph on the floor. So it's going to be interesting to see if that continues with a healthy KeShawn Murphy. Made an impact in this game, but that's why you had to lean on Murph as much as you can, and he played all but 9 minutes of this game.
If Bethune-Cookman was your first Division I basketball game and you looked like you really belonged out there against Houston, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Like that was 3 games ago, right? And you think about like Auburn has a couple. I mean, Murph had played D1 ball before,
sure.
But
no, you got another one. You got another one we're about to get to.
Well, there's two, right?
Okay,
there's two guys.
Number 3. Let's talk about the 2 newcomers who stood out.
Yeah, because you mentioned that without the contribution of Sebastian Williams-Adams playing the last 15 minutes of this game, especially after the Keyshawn Hall injury, like Auburn probably I don't know what Auburn does in the front court if they don't have.
And look, Sway's going to feel the absolute worst about the free throws because he missed 5 of them in this game. He's 3 for 8. But 7 points, 4 boards, doesn't miss a shot from the field, 2 assists, takes care of the ball, only gets called for a foul once, doesn't turn it over, like I said, 26 minutes. That's a kid who, again, Houston guy, and really brought it in this game. And once again, you come in down the stretch, it's like he's got to be out there. He's got to be out there because you might have to have some time when Murph's not on the floor, and you might have to have some time where Keyshawn Hall's not on the floor, so he's going to have to be the bridge there. And he was. Sway he's impressive, man. And he had to bang down there for some of those boards and some of those buckets.
Not even a little bit concerned about whether or not Sebastian Williams-Adams fits in a rotation for an SEC team right now. Ready. And that was a thing that going into the season.
Yeah.
Like I think it was fair to wonder. Like with almost every newcomer aside from Murphy, Pettiford, Overton, and Hall, it was fair to wonder, all right, is this guy going to
which one of these freshmen are going to be ready?
And who maybe isn't going to be able to be leaned on.
And like Magwood playing the minutes that Tahaad doesn't get at point guard. Like, yeah, you can do that. You will be just fine with that. But Sway, he's your 6th man right now. Like he is your 6th man. There are going to be some times where he might start for you. And I think matchups are going to determine a lot of that. But, like, really impressive game from him. That's a physical fight. And for a freshman, he looked ready for the challenge. And he's not like Sinak and Fleming's, which, again, jumper crazy in this game. They hit some shots. Pearl said afterwards they each hit about 3 or 4 shots that you just live with. And they just, all right, fair play. You hit that one on you. Those are 5 stars. Those are elite players. Those are players everybody in America wanted, coming out of high school. Sway was not one of those guys. He's a good prospect. He was a solid 4-star. But he really showed
Houston,
in this game.
It was Houston second behind Duke in recruiting. Is that generally there? Yeah, top 2, top 3.
This was the best recruiting class Houston's ever had, and it was a huge reason why they won that game. But yeah, Sway, just built for war for the beginning. The other guy built for war is Elyjah Freeman, also 7 points in this game. 7-3-2 from him. Also, he has a steal late, and then he forces another one in the dying moments of the game.
7 points, none bigger than a dunk that makes Justin Ferguson scramble around the scoring table like a cartoon character.
Yeah. It's the best dunk I've ever seen over a player from Auburn. Like, we've seen, these breakaway and these lobs and stuff like that. Elyjah Freeman dunked over the best freshman center in college basketball, coming out of high school. And JoJo Tugler, who is one of the best defenders in the country.
And kudos to those guys for not running for cover Because I think there is
I don't think they thought he could do it.
Well,
I think like when they go up, it's kind of like the Euro step dunk he has. He goes up and it's like, oh well, maybe he's trying to like finish it like maybe a finger roll or try to get to the layup, and he just keeps going. It's absurd.
The math doesn't add up when you're trying to like do the calculations on that dunk.
But that was the thing. Like when they started Freeman in this game, why it was so big because he has never played a team like this before, but athletically he belongs out there next to guys like Hughes because that is be very very clear. That is an NBA athlete. He's got parts of his game that are going to be pro polished. And he's playing D2 basketball last year. He's playing Division II. This guy is different. And again, there were moments in this game where he misses shots, had some turnovers, had some issues there, may have not secured the rebound always the way he wanted to. He has that dunk, right? He hits a huge three in this game for Auburn. And then, he gets a steal late, and he forces another turnover in the dying moments. Like, defensively, when Auburn needed stops, they let their freak show go do freak show things against this Houston team.
And with all the question marks coming into the season for Auburn, the fact that with Murphy, Hall, Williams-Adams, and Elyjah Freeman, like you've got 4 front court pieces that are gonna play, right? Like that's a huge part of reloading from last year is trying to figure out who's going to get these minutes and how many of and do they do they justify it with their playing time and with the two newcomers to college basketball to D1 basketball, Williams-Adams and Elyjah Freeman. I think it's been a very promising start so far to their Auburn careers.
It's just they look like they belonged, and
there was no way of knowing coming in. I
correct,
think with the non D1 players,
yep,
you can look great in D2 basketball or junior college or high school or Europe. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work right away in Division I basketball. I think seeing the contributions of Sway and Elyjah so far is really it's really promising.
All right, let's talk Tahaad. This was Stephen Pearl said it best after the game. This was more like it from Tahaad Pettiford. 5 of 14 from the field,
aggressive.
3 of 8 from deep. It's 2 of 7 from 2, or 2 of 6 from 2. I think he got blocked like 2 or 3 times, including that one late. 2 blocks and 2 steals. Like he's key in some of those stops late in the game for Auburn, including one very big one they had. This was big game hunter Tahaad. And look, I think people are going to want to see it more frequently from him. I saw some folks after the game, like talking like national folks, being like, "Oh, we were expecting more of Tahaad Pettiford." He played well in this game. 3 of 8 from deep, you will take. He hit some big shots in this game and kept it moving. Just one assist. There's a lot of having to because of the actions that they have. Wasn't able to kind of get the assist game, the playmaking game going, but only 1 turnover. I thought. Auburn in this game didn't get to push the pace as much as they wanted to in this one. I think Houston did a really good job of getting back and trying to cut all that out, and they didn't turn the ball over very much either. Only turned it over 10 times in this game. But I think Auburn got loose with the ball and had some issues in the first half, and just Tahaad playing most of that second half just tightened things up and played well. And it was a step forward.
Uzan and Sharp are 2 of the tougher draws too. I mean, you're facing.
Oh, and I look at this like
high level defensive play.
Like man-to-man's one thing. Auburn switches a lot, so you can't really blame it all on one guy or anything. I thought there were times where Kevin Overton had a hard time with Flemings, which I mean, I think everybody was having a hard time with Flemings. I do look back at this game though, and so Pettiford, having 15 points and playing well. Uzan, 4 of 11 from the field, came close to fouling out. He hits that huge 3 late in the game, obviously, for Houston, but I thought he did well on that as that guy being the bigger guy, being the primary matchup there. Obviously, everybody has a part to play in defending everybody, especially with as much switching and some of the zone work Auburn did in that game. But I thought it's exactly what Stephen Pearl said after the Wofford game when I asked him about Tahaad, and he was like, look, if he's locked in on defense, everything's going to fall into place. That's all I'm worried about with him. I think you saw it in this game. No, he didn't score as much as he did in that first game, and I think people may be wanting the points explosion. That's going to come at some point. He played a good game of point guard against a really tough team and a really tough defense that was trying to limit him. They were not going to let him go nuts again. And to get 15 out of that, to hit some big threes, to take care of the ball, to be an impact player on defense, I thought that was a really good step up from Tahaad Pettiford when they needed him to. He needed to be a leader, and he was.
Yeah, I think that the thought that the outside shot is looking more reminiscent of what he was able to do last year, and the weapon that you thought it was going to be for a big chunk of the season. I mean, it's yet again we see Auburn decide early in a half, right? Hey, we need to get Tahaad. We need to get Tahaad's outside shot going, right? There was the game, was it the Wofford game when Auburn draws up a play that gets Tahaad an outside shot early in the second half? I feel like early in this second half they were trying. Early in both halves, they were really trying to go Tahaad heavy with the offense, and like you said with Stephen pointing out Tahaad's defense, like if he's willing to, I think with both Tahaad and Keyshawn Hall, there is a trickle down effect where if they are willing to give it all defensively, their teammates are going to see, hey, these are the best offensive players on the team, and they're giving it their all defensively.
Yeah.
You've got no excuse.
Nope.
Like if Tahaad and Keyshawn Hall are willing to buy in and try to be lockdown defenders, everyone else on the team, I think is going to fall in line and follow suit behind those guys. And so to see Tahaad, I mean, the play that sets up the possession that could have won Auburn the game is the block shot that Tahaad sets. That Tahaad gets in the final minute. If Houston scores a basket on that possession, it's a very different possession that Auburn's looking at. And so, yeah, I think it's I mean, if Auburn had won this game, Tahaad would have been an enormous reason why. Yeah. And so to look at it and say, yeah, I mean, Auburn came up just short. It still really feels like a step in the right direction for Tahaad Pettiford.
Tahaad Pettiford's through 4 games has quadrupled his block rate from last season. His block percentage, like he's making some hustle plays, he's making some impact plays on the defensive end. And that's not what he's known for, but if he continues to go in that direction, that's such a good sign. And
that's not to sell anyone short like of his teammates, but is there the sense too that hey, Tahaad doesn't have last year's team, and he's got to do more of this himself, and on both sides of the floor.
He can't afford not to be good on defense. He can't. And we've said the same thing about Key as well, but like that is going to be huge for Auburn moving forward if he can continue to do that. And I thought. You saw that. You saw some of the big game hunter in him. We'll see how he does. Wednesday, you want to see him continue to hit more shots when they play Jackson State, right? But, won't surprise me that when they get out of Vegas and they play Oregon and they play Michigan and they play whoever else comes up, he's going to go hunting again because that's who he is. All right, you're number 4.
You mentioned the free throw shooting. I mean, we can that can be a point if you want to talk about it. I get it, but but what I was going to mention, I guess this is sort of related to it. I was so impressed because we're talking about fouls. And I know Houston is not a team that draws a ton of fouls. They don't shoot historically. They have not shot a ton of free throws.
No.
I thought Auburn's ability to defend Houston without fouling.
Yep.
Was
especially in that second half.
In the second half, I mean, Auburn goes.
They have 4 fouls in the second half.
And I believe the first one isn't called for 8 or 9 minutes. Like Auburn opens the second half with 7 or 8 minutes of no foul basketball.
How about that? They played like that on defense and still was able to be physical. It wasn't like they were giving up a lot. Now they did give up some. There were some breakdowns. There were some times where Houston got some good looks at the rim. Not
fouling in 10 minutes isn't an accomplishment if your opponent scores 45. Right? Like it's like, hey, we didn't foul.
And Houston's offense was better. Actually, oh wow. Actually, they weren't. They scored 39 in the first half, 34 in the second half.
Yeah.
So it was like Auburn did better in the second half on defense.
Yeah, and they did it without fouling. Like you said, just with 4 fouls. And I thought that was something that was I mean, Houston, the ability they kept finding ways to make those clean defensive plays, and that was Houston Houston did not. We said it in the preview. Houston did not need Auburn's help in this game. And if Auburn was going to commit a bunch of fouls and give Houston free looks at the stripe, it was only going to make it tougher to have a to have
they
a
go
game.
10-12.
If you had fouled Houston more, we're probably talking about a very different final few minutes of this game, because Houston would have been able to pad their lead to larger than 8. That's the other thing. Amazing that at no point in this game Houston built a double-digit lead.
Nope.
Like we said, I mean, with Auburn's bounce back, and that's in part because I think Auburn showed discipline defensively in staying physical and staying after it, but doing it without fouling. Because if Auburn had in a situation where I think the referees would have been willing to call them. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, Auburn couldn't leave it up to the referees here. And I thought they did a really good job. And that's something where, since it's still, in a lot of ways, Stevens' defense, there's a lot of defense coordinator, head coach sort of things going on at Auburn right now.
No
but with Stevens' defense, like the fact that he was able to get that kind of performance out of his team, and only 14 fouls, only 12 free throw attempts for Houston in the game, like that's an accomplishment for Auburn, and a big reason why they almost won the game.
I mean, Auburn wins the points per possession, scoring percentage, and had fewer and turnover percentage, and it's just 1 point of difference because of literally the difference in possessions down the stretch in this game. The free throws, right? Like this is going to be something that's going to hang around with this team until they can prove people wrong. They are shooting 69% from the line this year. That's 223rd in the country. Last year they were 72.7%, which was 163rd. 2 seasons ago they were 75%. So it is a drop off.
And missing 12 free throws in a game you lose by 1.
It hurts. It hurts. Like I said, Sway missing that many is going to stick with him for a while, and he's going to work hard to get. And that's the thing too. It's like it's an obvious thing, right? And everybody out there who is like, they just need to work on free throws more. They do. I'm telling you, man, they do. Practice does not make perfect, right? It just doesn't. It doesn't. You can sit in an empty gym, or you can sit in a practice gym and do that. You can run to your dead, and then you can try to shoot free throws, and it doesn't simulate the pressure you feel in these games like this. It just doesn't. You got to be better at it, though. No way around it. Not having Hall down the stretch was big. It just was, because I think the free throw game is different. Tahaad Pettiford's just not a guy who gets to the free throw line a lot. He's just not. That's just not his game. Kevin Overton is, and Overton misses 4 in this game, and that's tough, right? Because he's usually a guy that's knocked down there. So, I mean, that's something that's going to stick with these guys, and they're going to have to continue to work on. Auburn shot 21 more free throws in this game than Houston did. Hit 11 more than Houston did. So it was like missing those free throws was like you missed out on a bonus. Like you missed out on opportunities that Houston provided you. Look, Houston fouls a lot. Mm-hmm. They send guys to the line because it's physical. They do the Elyjah to boom thing where it's like you can't call foul every time. In that second half, though, they got into foul trouble quick. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Snack fouls out, Tugler fouls out.
Overtime would have been a disaster for Houston.
Yeah, Uzan's down to 4 late.
Uzan's down to 4, and you're without Tugler and Snack by the time that final possession rolls around. I know it's a 1 point game.
And it also kind of makes sense, like late in the game, Auburn going to the basket and like trying to like potentially get to the free throw line. And they don't get the call, they don't get the calls, and they don't go to the line. But like that, that made sense. It's a missed opportunity, right? You dominated the free throw count in this game, and it could have been even better.
If there's a reason you feel like you should have won, it's the thought that you came this close missing those free throws.
Yeah, absolutely. And there have been games in the past where Auburn is even games to Houston where they've lost shooting. How about losing games to Houston in that building? Where free throws were an issue. It's something they got to work on. Sway's got to get up in that area, because he's going to get fouled, because he's going to be a guy who gets there,
and because Auburn needs him.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is like he's gonna play.
Yeah.
He's good. I mean, there's.
Kevin Overton going 7 of 11 from the line in this game is one thing. He was 4 or 5 before that this season, and he shot 80% at Drake. He shot 78%. Last year Texas Tech. So, like, he's a better free throw shooter than that, and he wasn't in this game.
Overton drew 7 fouls.
He's
in that game.
And that's the kind of dude you want to have out there for sure.
It's not that shocking when Keyshawn Hall draws 7 fouls, which he also did, despite missing the final minutes.
You would love to get Pettiford more trips to the line. And, I think they tried, but that's just something you're going to have to continue to work on, and try to facilitate more. And again, Hall, final 4 minutes, does Auburn miss that many free throws? Does Auburn hit more free throws if Hall's out there? Probably. So, again, this game played according to type. I thought all of Auburn's free throws were earned. Their trips were earned. Like to your point, they prevented Houston from getting to the line. You didn't give them help. It's a missed opportunity, and that's ultimately what they're going to look back at this game and think about. My number 4 point. I thought Auburn's. Let's talk Auburn's defense. I thought Auburn's defense played a good game. There were times where it looked great, and there were times where it looked not great. And I think they're still searching for that consistency. Look. Kingston Flemings hit some bombs. He goes 7 of 10 from 2 in this game, and they're jumpers, like a good bit of jumpers. Kingston Flemings is shooting 80% from 2 through his first 4 college games. He's a guard. It's ridiculous. And he's shooting 40% from deep. He went 1 of 3 in this game. I think Auburn got...
Sinak's got some mid-range.
Oh, and then he hit some threes in this one. It's like, okay, all right, you're 6'11", and you're shooting like that. Like, all right.
Get out of college basketball. What are you doing here?
But look, Emmanuel Sharp, 5 of 15 from the field, 2 of 7 for deep. Like against the number 1 guy, the priority on the scouting report, they did a good job there. Uzan did not really get loose. He hits the huge one late, obviously, and remember correctly, that's a step back. Like that's a well-guarded shot that he hits. Flemings hits a well-guarded one at the end of the first half, too. That was a killer. There were some breakdowns.
You're talking about, okay, well, one of the separators is guards who make tough shots. That's one of the tougher shots you're going to see a guy make. And he's doing it with a, there's a lot riding on that possession for Houston.
I mean, how about this? You go back to what Pearl said, there's 3 or 4 shots from Flemings and Senak in this game that you're you'll live with them hitting. Okay, so that's 8 shots they make. You lose that game by 1, and you're just fair play. It's like the Bethune game where it's that team hit a ton of threes that they normally don't hit and hit some of them contested. And it's that happens. It's just not going to be your night sometimes. There was some of that kind of look, fair play. Tip your hat to them. That team's awesome. They've got elite freshmen. They got freshmen that are at a different level than a lot. And this is
and they'll get better too. That's the other with Houston.
A bonkers freshman class in college basketball. And these guys, those two are just as good as a lot of these dudes in this class.
Okay, that was one of the points Kelvin Sampson made in his post-game press conference is these are 2 teams that should get a lot better over the course of the year. Auburn, because so many of these guys are new, and Houston, they don't have as many new players in the rotation, but they got 2 freshmen that have to play a ton, right? That have to be a really big part of what they're doing moving forward, and it's you assume those guys are going to get better the more comfortable they are in college basketball.
There's some breakdowns in this game at the rim that you don't like. It's some easy plays, some easy shots that were hit. I thought Auburn tightened up on those, obviously, at the end.
When there was an easy basket in this game, it stood out.
Yeah,
too,
really,
because
on both ends. Yeah. And then I thought several of the threes that Houston hit, you felt like Auburn got in trouble with some of the stuff they've had in the past where they dig too deep and they don't extend out, and there's some catch and shoot opportunities. You chalk up some of that to hey, fair play. They hit some buckets in this one. But I thought Auburn came out of this game. They're going to look at that defensive film and like a good bit of what they did, and they're going to have focus. They're going to have to focus on that. The other one that really stings in this game, and Pearl talked about it afterwards. Houston had 0 second chance wins in the first half. They had 11 in the second half. And look, you were going to keep them scoreless in second chance points. Okay, but you did have some breakdowns. You did give up some second chance looks that you do a little bit better job in rebounding. They don't take advantage of, and maybe the game's different because of that.
Clearly seemed to bother Steven, right? That was one of the things.
Yeah, it's a controllable thing. It's like free throws. It's a controllable thing that you could fix. If you have those controllable defensive breakdowns and the second chance opportunities and the missed free throws and X, Y, and Z, and you're missing your top scorer for the last 4 minutes, and all that happens, and then you still only lose by 1, it's like, all right, the potential of this team's high. This team internally is not going to want to talk about the things that they did well. They're going to, and they don't need to. Their job is going to be to improve on what they did and move forward, because here's the dirty little secret about this game. They got some really tough games coming up for sure, but like they're going to have 4 or 5 here coming up where it shouldn't be as tough as that one. Arizona's going to be a wild ride. But like, look, Oregon, Michigan, NC State, they're all going to be really good. There's going to be tough tests. Auburn's going to need to play well to win those games, and then whatever else they get in Vegas. That Arizona game is like, ooh, that team might be top 5 good, and that's a true road game in that one. So that one's going to feel different. Obviously, Purdue's going to feel different. And then from there, man, like, look, there's some great teams in the SEC. There's some outstanding teams in the SEC. But if you can do that against Houston, there's nothing for this team to be intimidated by. And it's like, again,
and Stephen Pearl doesn't want to come off satisfied, right?
No,
Because
he is as negative about his own performance and his team's performances after games as anyone I've probably covered. And his dad was famously could get nitpicky on the negative, but like he's even joked about it. Like he's just not a very positive guy in the post game. But this team doesn't need that. This team needs belief. And I think this team needs.
I think Steven recognizes that complacency would be an enemy
yes.
for this team. Complacency would be something you're trying to avoid. And so by mentioning, seeming satisfied with a close loss, I think would send the wrong message
right
internally. And it's clear
I think
that
externally we can look at Auburn and say, wow, they proved a lot. And that's as high a quality of a loss as you can get. We can all say that and look at that. Internally, though, they're going to look at each other and say, we should have won that game. And because we should have won that game, we don't need to miss these opportunities moving forward. And that's the thing. And it's like, go back to the Bethune-Cookman game. They get in that situation, and it's like, how are they going to react? How are they going to handle this? They've never been in this spot before. And Stephen Pearl looks at each of those guys and says, hey, let's go win. Let's go win. And it's one thing to go do that against Bethune-Cookman in overtime at home. It's another thing to do that against Houston in your 4th game together. But there's a reason for that, and I think they went out and showed it on Sunday.
A game that totally delivered, right, as far as what you're hoping you're going to get.
I said it.
In a November.
They need to play every year.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in. Yeah.
And I know Houston's dance card's usually full. And here's the thing. I don't think they can cross paths in Vegas unless something crazy happens. But they're going to be in Players Era for the next few seasons, so this might be a game we see in Vegas next year if they don't play if they don't schedule anything more.
For some reason, I think Players Era is going to try to avoid like matching up teams that have played already or are slated to play or in the same conference. Yeah. Like I think there's some of that, so they might tinker with. There's no telling who Auburn could see on Wednesday, but no, I'm with you. I mean, Houston and Auburn. Like
so good, and there's so much respect between those two programs.
And when Bruce was the coach, I got to ask Kelvin after the press conference a little bit about, did you get to talk to Bruce? Did you see him up there? And because Bruce was there in the house, they cut to him a couple times on the jumbotron,
holding the baby,
and doing on grandpa duty. And it's when Bruce was the coach, like the similarities between the situation Kelvin Sampson inherited and the fact that he had some run-ins with the NCAA before getting to Houston and then turning them into one of the most consistent winners in all of college basketball. There are parallels with the Bruce Pearl story. Like Bruce Pearl had his issues and then came to Auburn and turned Auburn into one of the most consistent winners in college basketball. And I think, there's always seemed to be a mutual respect between those two coaches because few people would understand how hard it is to do what Bruce Pearl did at Auburn, what Kelvin Sampson's done at Houston. But those two coaches would understand because they've done something similar themselves. And I think that has created.
Also, hey, Dan, who's going to be the next head coach at Houston whenever Kelvin Sampson is done?
And it would seem like Kelvin Sampson is waiting to maybe pass the torch to
maybe. He's already in waiting. That one's official.
A fiery young assistant coach who happens to have the last name of Sampson. Like I think there are, and using that as emblematic of the family values of your program, the fact that it is
the continuity, the culture that you want to bring.
It's a father and son thing, even with the coaching staff. Like I think there's some of that too. But no, I'm with you. These two programs, they make magic when they get together.
So I will say this as we close. I get it. You want these home and home games, and I think Arizona's going to be a fun series. You get whatever you get out of the SEC ACC matchup. Obviously, NC State coming up. I get it. I understand it. But look, let's be realistic. Auburn's arena only holds 9,121 people. The fact that you can get a home game environment in bigger arenas like this, these games should continue to happen, right? I know people want to have the home and home, and you can have those, but like it's special. It's not just special for the folks who are in Birmingham that are Auburn fans. But like they're gonna go to Huntsville next year and do this as well. They need to keep doing that. Atlanta's been that way as well.
I was gonna say a game in Birmingham and a game in Atlanta for fans who can't be part of the Neville Arena experience is
you can sit here and say like, you know, oh, these games need to be all at home, and it's like, look, guys, like that's not an easy ticket to get. Like you're making this more attainable for your fans by having these games like this. And also it's just like there's more juice to it, right? It is just there's more people there, right? Neville Arena can go nuts and it's a very special place, but like that arena at full pitch like on Sunday was special. And I hope these games like that kind of continue. Auburn's going to try to pack it out in other places like Atlanta and Huntsville moving forward. There's room for these kind of things cuz Auburn basketball, guess what, is a traveling show. And a lot of people should get a chance to do that who won't have the opportunity to do that at Neville for several different reasons.
It's a hot ticket. And you mentioned during the game at Boutwell that thing felt like
that was awesome.
The Boutwell game felt like a postseason
felt
game.
Like Maui.
Okay. You know what? If the Boutwell game felt like a highly competitive November December tournament game, you know, like one of those Maui Atlantis, you know, players eras going for the sort of the new title there. Like if that's what Auburn Oklahoma State felt like. That game we were at today,
second weekend,
felt like a Sweet 16 game.
So this is the one in Houston last year felt the same way. It felt the exact same way.
And what a treat, right? To get to watch and to get to see your program playing games that feel like second weekend of the NCAA tournament games before Thanksgiving. Right, like you're seeing your team do that. That's
look. There was a very big game in the SEC recently that was at a home court environment, and it didn't feel like that one. It did not. The crowd was not like that. The atmosphere was not like that, and it could have been, but it wasn't. So, yeah, there you go. All right, that's gonna do it for us. We will be back later this week. Dan will be calling it. We'll be doing this remotely. I'll have to break out the Zoom machine.
That's
again. Right. We will be back to talk. We'll talk Auburn Jackson State.
Do you have anything? I mean, this is.
I was going to say you're coming back on Thursday though.
I'm back Friday. But I will.
But you're in transit on Thursday.
We're in transit Thursday. Maybe Wednesday night we're recording a recap.
That's gonna be so late.
Maybe Wednesday night we're recording a breakdown.
Might be. Might have to be. We might have to burn the midnight oil.
Is that when's the Jackson State game?
Like at 7. Like
is it Tuesday or Wednesday though?
Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
It's at 8. God,
okay.
It's 8 o'clock tip. Yeah, this one's gonna be tough. That might. Ooh, yeah. We might,
and I get and the Thursday game is an 11:30. My Thursday Thursday mornings out of the question because we're playing Missouri in the morning.
We'll have a podcast later this week. Dan may or may not be on.
I could be on it. We'll make it work.
We'll try. We'll figure something out.
Sweet boy, have your phone on you.
Yeah, we'll have something of some sort. But we'll be back. And appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Observations from this game, if you're an Observer subscriber, are out on this Monday morning as well. And we will have football and basketball throughout the week. And I'll be heading to Vegas for Players Era next week. I'm very much looking forward to that. And then we'll obviously be back for the Iron Bowl this upcoming weekend. Coaching search, all that good stuff going on as well. It's a great time to subscribe to the Observer if you haven't already. $6 a month or $60 a year, auburnobserver.com. There's links in the description. There's buttons. There's emails. Check us out.
Shout out to folks who said hi in Birmingham,
Shout
by
out
the
to
way.
the folks who said hi.
And shout out to the recommendation we had for lunch.
Yeah, for Scott. Shout out to Scott, Observer subscriber, Inner Circle member, one of our favorites. He sent this suggestion to me on Twitter, and then I saw it and didn't respond to it, and then he wrote another, he put it in the comments of the latest podcast to make sure we saw it. And yes, we did, Scott. And I was very much looking forward to it. This was Johnny's restaurant in Homewood, downtown Homewood. We
were there with the church crowd.
Yeah, we were there with the church crowd. Some Auburn fans too, gearing up for the game. This was an awesome place to eat if you've never been. It was our first time there. I'd always heard about it, but never been. And so Johnny's is a meat and three that has Greek, kind of a Greek backbone to it. There's a huge history of Greek restaurant owners in the Birmingham area for decades and decades and decades. This guy grew up in this. Johnny was part of that. That families had this restaurant, and it's meat and three, but it also got some Greek stuff in there that was stellar. I had a Greek baked chicken.
Yeah,
that was fantastic. I don't know what all's in it, but it was
some good-looking Greek salads were flying around there. I'll tell you what. So of the stuff that we didn't try that just passed by our tables, I mean, the kind of chicken tenders that look like they're just they're not. They don't even look real. They look like they're like the kind you would use to take pictures of food. It was prop chicken tenders.
Yeah,
the pot pie.
The pot pie. Did you see the pot roast?
I did see the what is it, 15-hour?
15-hour pot roast?
15-hour pot roast. A couple of the people next to us got meatloaf.
Yeah.
The meatloaf looked pretty good, but no, I had some fried catfish that totally delivered. I had some fried catfish that was
like catfish fillet.
Oh man, it was.
And I don't eat fish very often, if at all. And so I turned down the catfish, but
I haven't
heard a ton about it.
Well, having grown up in Destin, Fort Walton Beach, I have seafood
saltwater seafood.
I have seafood snob tendencies.
You weren't eating dirt fish like us in South Alabama.
But when I get the recommendation for some good fried catfish, I will go investigate. And it was just outstanding.
And then we both had mac and cheese.
Both had very good mac and cheese. Got to mix some veggies in.
Yeah. I did. I had some green beans.
You did. You did a great job.
And mashed potatoes. But the green beans were stellar. The mashed potatoes were stellar. I had placed the order before I saw the tweet. Somebody had recommended that the red beans were there. They looked really good too. They were doing shrimp and grits. They were doing. You had grit cake.
I had a little bit of the Parmesan grit cake.
Oh man, it was just. That's a place that the menu was so big and varied that I felt like I would be there a decent bit if I lived in that area. You love a meat and three, obviously. The state of Alabama, Birmingham specifically, has a great tradition with that. But that and the Greek food together, it works. Because when you hear Greek food and meat and three, you're like, how's that going to work? And then you go in there and you're like, yeah, it works, man. It really, really works. So shout out Scott. Johnny's in Homewood, big time delivering. If you're ever hanging out there, tell them the Observer sent you.